Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a topic that has been circulating across news outlets, online discussions, and political commentary circles. The idea that the European Union is moving into a new panic mode. Whether these concerns are rooted in economic pressures, policy shifts, migration debates, or geopolitical tensions, the phrase itself has sparked a wave of questions. In this video, we're going to break down what this panic mode actually refers to, why it's emerging, how different EU states are reacting, and what it means for the future of Europe. The goal is to make this easy to understand, balanced, and clear without drowning you in technical jargon or political drama. The European Union has been facing layers of challenges over the last few years. Each challenge alone might be manageable, but together they form a pressure system that keeps building. Economic uncertainty, rising living costs, internal disagreements between member states, and external pressures from global competition all play a part. When people refer to the EU being in a new panic mode, they're usually talking about a combination of all these issues reaching a point where the bloc is forced to react faster, more seriously, and sometimes more emotionally than before. The EU has always had debates and disagreements, but the intensity today feels different because the solutions are becoming harder to find. One of the core issues fueling this sense of panic is the economic environment. Even though some EU countries remain strong economically, others struggle with inflation, slow growth, and high unemployment. The imbalance creates friction inside the Union. When stronger economies push for strict rules and weaker economies push for more flexibility, the compromise becomes difficult. This economic divide also leads to heated discussions about the EU budget, how funds should be allocated, and which countries contribute more than others. These arguments make the atmosphere tense, especially during times of global economic slowdown. Another major factor behind the EU new panic mode is migration pressure. Over the past decade, migration has become one of the most emotional and politically sensitive topics in Europe. Different countries have different capacities and different attitudes toward accepting migrants. Southern European countries often feel overburdened because of their geographical position. Northern countries sometimes face political pushback from their own populations when it comes to hosting large numbers of newcomers. Eastern European countries often take a stricter stance. When these different viewpoints clash, the European Union struggles to create a unified solution. The lack of a shared system creates confusion and stress, adding one more layer to the current sense of panic. Geopolitics also plays a massive role in this situation. Europe is caught between multiple global powers, each pushing its own influence, and the EU has to navigate that carefully. Energy disputes, supply chain problems, and shifting alliances affect Europe more deeply than many people realize. Some of these issues force the EU to make decisions faster than usual, and rushing can lead to mistakes, disagreements, or inconsistent messaging. This creates the impression that the EU is overwhelmed or reacting too late. In addition to external pressures, internal politics within EU countries also feed the narrative of panic. Elections across Europe show rising support for parties that challenge traditional EU positions. Some call for reforms, others for stricter controls, and some even question the EU authority altogether. When enough countries go through political transitions at the same time, it creates uncertainty inside the Union. Leaders find it harder to make decisions because they must consider how their choices might affect political stability back home. This slows down policies that need urgent action, making the entire system look stressed. Media coverage adds fuel to the fire. Headlines often highlight the negative, the dramatic, and the urgent. While some concerns are real, the framing can make situations appear even more intense than they are. When people constantly see terms like crisis, collapse, emergency, or panic, it shapes public perception. This perception can influence political leaders who may feel pressured to react quickly to maintain public confidence. So even if the situation is not as severe as it appears, the reactions can still look like panic mode decisions. Another element contributing to this atmosphere is the rapid pace of global technological competition. Europe is under pressure to keep up with other global players in fields like artificial intelligence, digital infrastructure, cybersecurity, and green technology. Falling behind in any of these sectors would weaken Europe's global influence. The EU is trying to accelerate innovation while also regulating big tech companies, balancing environmental goals with economic needs, and protecting citizens' data. This balancing act is extremely difficult, and the fear of making the wrong move adds more stress to the decision-making process. Energy security is also at the center of the EU concerns. The last few years exposed the vulnerabilities in Europe's energy networks, especially its dependence on external suppliers. High energy prices influenced everything from household budgets to industrial production. When a region as large as Europe experiences energy instability, every sector feels the impact. This pressure forces leaders to find long-term solutions, but those solutions require cooperation that is not always easy to achieve. Social tensions inside Europe also contribute to the feeling that the EU is under strain. People worry about living costs, job opportunities, social services, and long-term stability. When citizens feel uncertain, they demand stronger actions from their governments. Governments then place pressure on EU institutions to deliver faster responses. When responses are slow or complicated, frustration grows and the cycle continues. Interestingly, one of the biggest problems is not a lack of ideas, but a lack of agreement. Europe has talented policymakers, economists, analysts, and institutions, but the diversity of the Union makes decision-making slow. What works for one country may not work for another. Finding a single plan that satisfies everyone is extremely difficult. This difficulty creates delays, and delays create frustration. That frustration creates the impression that the EU is panicking, even if some processes simply require time. Despite all these pressures, it's important to understand that panic mode does not mean collapse. The EU has survived multiple crises in the past: financial crashes, political shocks, pandemics, and more. Each time, it eventually stabilizes. The current situation feels tense, but it also creates opportunities for reform. Crises often force institutions to evolve, strengthen their policies, and introduce new strategies that may not have been considered during peaceful times. Some leaders are calling for deeper integration within the Union, meaning more unified policies, stronger central decisions, and less national-level fragmentation. Others argue the opposite, saying that the EU should give more power to individual countries and reduce centralized control. This debate will shape Europe's future. Whether the EU becomes more unified or becomes more flexible will depend on how leaders handle the pressures they face today. One of the reasons the phrase "new panic mode" is gaining traction is that for the first time in a long period, the EU is facing multiple large challenges all at once. Economic issues, political shifts, migration pressures, global competition, social concerns, and energy problems are all interacting with each other. When multiple problems overlap, the stress multiplies. Leaders must consider short-term and long-term consequences at the same time. This creates complex decision-making environments where mistakes are costly. The European public also plays a major role. Citizens want stability, security, and opportunities. When they feel uncertain, they expect fast solutions. When solutions are slow, they lose confidence. Maintaining this trust is one of the EU's biggest challenges. Trust can be lost quickly, but takes time to rebuild. Leaders must communicate more clearly, act more efficiently, and show that they understand people's concerns. Even though the EU appears to be in panic mode, it is also adapting. New policies are being introduced, New alliances are being formed and new strategies are being tested. Europe is investing in renewable energy, digital innovation, and defense cooperation. Many countries are pushing for smarter regulations, stronger borders, and more efficient economic planning. These changes take time to show results, but they demonstrate that the EU is not simply panicking. It is also transforming. The biggest question now is how the EU will handle the coming years. Will it find unity in the face of pressure, or will divisions grow deeper? Will economic recovery strengthen the bloc, or will disagreements weaken cooperation? These answers depend on decisions being made right now. Every policy, negotiation, and agreement shapes the future of Europe. As we wrap up this explanation, remember that the phrase EU in new panic mode reflects the complex reality of a union facing multiple challenges, not a prediction of collapse. The tension is real, the debates are intense, but the outcome is not fixed. Europe has a long history of surviving tough times. The question is how quickly it can stabilize and what reforms it chooses along the way. Thank you for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more deep explanations just like this.